So what we are doing here is we went ahead and opened up the transmission bolt here, which is a T10, and the drain bolt on the sump here, which is actually a T30 star bit. And we're going to go ahead and just let those drain. Good afternoon, automotive fanatics. It's Peter, your automotive fanatic, coming at you guys with another DIY. With today's project, we welcome you Mini Cooper owners. What we're going to accomplish today is we are going to change the Cooper's automatic transmission fluid as well as the filter. This is going to be a pretty involved task. I won't say it's extremely easy, nor will I say it's going to be a very difficult project, but again, just a little tedious, as there are very crucial things that you need to get done to get everything taken care of. Now, before I begin, I do want to let the Mini Cooper owners know that my way of doing this, I will try my best to do it according to the users or owners maintenance manuals and service manuals, but there is going to be one specific thing that is completely out of the norm. On the pan itself, there's going to be one star bit bolt that is incredibly difficult to get off. Not because of the torque that it's down, it's specifically because of the location. Now, I did a lot of research on how to remove this specific star bit, and it breaks down to either having to drop the subframe to have space to get to that bolt, or you actually have to drill a small hole through the front subframe. And that's kind of the controversial item that I actually did on my Mini Cooper. I drilled a small hole so that I can actually get a socket or a connection to the star bit up there so I can loosen it. I did it, one, to make things a little easier, and two, because I can get up there with a specific socket, I can properly torque that bolt down. Now, is it completely unsafe that I did this? In honesty, anytime that you alter anything that is not going to be OEM, I think there's always some type of risk to the integrity. However, looking at the subframe, there is actually a huge hole that comes from the factory underneath it. So Mini has already designed it a way that I think it is still structurally sound. The level of change that I did that compromises the integrity, I couldn't tell you guys. So if you want to do it my way, you definitely can. If you want to drop the subframe so you have access to that star bit, you can definitely do it that way. So with this project, there's going to be a couple of other complicated things that you need to do. You need to actually get to the drain bolt that is going to be installed on the top or upper portion of the torque converter. Where it's situated, the same thing as that star bit, it's very difficult to access. However, with my research, I found a couple of techniques that other users have done successfully, and I'm happy to tell you guys I got it to work as well. So prior to me really starting, I had to dive into the Cooper to make sure that I could take everything apart, and everything so far is a go. So without further ado, my friends and Cooper maniacs and fanatics, if you want to go ahead and kind of tackle this project with me, let's go ahead and get started on this project. So here we are underneath the vehicle, and I wanted to show you guys the bolt that you're going to have a little difficulty getting to, but I have figured out how to do it in terms of removing it. This bolt here is actually the fill for the transmission, and over here, just as reference, this is your axle, and we'll go back here. Now again, that's that trouble bolt that you're going to have trouble accessing. What you need to do is, I have a T55 star bit socket and a 10 millimeter on the top end of the Allen part of the star bit. So a user found out that that way it works. You're able to actually put the socket or the box wrench around it, and you're able to turn it. So I was able to get enough leverage to crack that bolt open. So that gives you an idea of how to do it right there. Here is we went ahead and opened up the transmission bolt here, which is a T10, and the drain bolt on the sump here, which is actually a T30 star bit, and we're going to go ahead and just let those drain. There is actually going to be an internal I guess some type of device that goes in here that we're going to have to remove as well. So once that stops draining, I am going to go ahead and remove it, and more fluid should actually come out. Now what I am doing with this pan is I'm going to collect as much fluid as I can in here. I have a measuring device that I'll pour all of the oil in so that I have a good indication as to how much fluid has come out, so I can pump back in roughly the same amount prior to leveling the transmission fluid off. For the next part of the drain, you'll need to remove the inner plug in here, and what I did was I went ahead and put in, let me take a look real quick guys. I believe this is going to be a 5 or a 6, but actually it's a 5, so you'll put it in here. It was actually up a little higher, but I went ahead and stuck it in there, and this will come out. You're going to have a lot more fluid. Make sure that you're very cautious with this and that you do not break it, because this is the leveling device here that goes back in, and as you can tell, lots of fluid coming out. We'll go ahead and let it drain, and then I'm going to put back the transmission drain plug. We'll go ahead and torque it down to 27 Newton meters, and we'll go ahead and fill this one back up, and just hand tighten this. From there, we're going to go ahead and remove the fill plug and start filling transmission fluid into the unit here. But prior to doing that, I'm going to remove this pan here so that I can service the filter. And again, that is only if you guys want to remove this to service the filter. Here is going to be that smaller star bit that holds the transmission pan to the transmission that you're going to have a lot of issues accessing. And as you can tell, there is very little space, so you end up having to drop the subframe, or you want to drill through this to access the very top. Earlier I told you guys that manufacturer already has put a hole through here. This obviously is going to change the integrity of it, but this is what Mini Cooper did, and as you can tell, they have holes all over, so it's not going to be a huge deal in my opinion. But what I did was I drilled a hole through to this upper side here, and I was able to get my star bit through here, essentially right up through here, and that way I can crack that bolt off as well as to torque it down. So that's kind of the controversial item of this job here. So the transmission pan sump here is off, and all I end up having to do is I had to use a very sharp device to get through This has never been serviced before, so the seal was very tight, and I just had to kind of wedge it from one corner and then just slowly work my way around, and the pan was able to come off. Now there's going to be 3 bolts that hold in this filter here, so you'll go ahead and remove those, get the new one on. You'll actually lube the new filter to fit on, and then torque these. I will go ahead and have torque specs for you, but overall we're going to go ahead and leave it as is right now to let all of the fluid drain out as much as possible. Here is my transmission pan, and I wanted to show you guys inside. There are actually 2 magnets, one here, that were placed here and here. I moved it, but you can see there's actually some very fine shavings that's on here. Make sure that you clean that and just put it back to where it is. Now here is that spout that we took out to give you guys an idea. Now from here, we've got the gasket that goes around the entire pan. The new service kit that I have has these actually as well. So we'll pull this off. I'm going to clean this down. I'm going to spray it with some brake cleaner to get it nice and clean. And then we will put the new seal around here with the new bolt. We'll slightly grease it with some transmission fluid to get a nice seal. And then from here, we will go ahead and install it back on the vehicle. We have installed the little strainer filter, and it was torqued down to 11 Newton-pounds. I went ahead and somewhat cleaned the interior with some brake cleaner and also let it drain. Now we'll go ahead and get ready to install the pan back on here, and those are going to be torqued to 8 Newton meters. For this part here, I am measuring off how much fluid we remove from the vehicle. Now keep in mind, this is only a rough approximation, so at least you have an idea of how much you're going to be putting in. This is going to be my big catch can, and then this is going to be quart-wise. Right now, I have it at 3 quarts, and I'm guessing I probably removed 3.5 quarts. There's still going to be some in the middle, but that kind of gives you guys an idea of what you need to do to measure your fluid that comes out. So the final results that I was able to remove was 4 quarts, and here is what the transmission fluid looks like. So guys, do not let the manufacturers tell you that transmission fluid is lifetime. It definitely is not, because this looks straight up nasty. It's dark, it's black, and it's got all kinds of contaminants, so you don't want this floating back in your car. So the next step of the service here is we're going to go ahead and fill the transmission up with the specified fluids. I went ahead and, as you guys can tell, I went ahead and removed the fill bolt. I ran a hose into there, and you can kind of see it here. Now you'll see that I have looped it around the drain plug, because you don't, when you heat up the vehicle, you don't want it close to your exhaust pipe because it's going to burn. So let's go ahead and just kind of show you guys real quick my setup. What I did was I pumped in. This here is essentially a pesticide spray that I got from Home Depot. It works very well. I filled it up with 3 quarts of the specified ATF, and we're going to go ahead and put some pressure on it, and we're going to go ahead and pump it up in here. Now I know for a fact 3 quarts is not going to be enough, but I wanted to get it started, so we'll go ahead and do that. And then from there, I'm going to add 1.5 quarts into the pressure device, and I'm going to pump it through we're going to heat up the vehicle to the transmission's proper temperature. So let's go ahead and start getting the fluid in, and I'll show you guys the step after that. So we are essentially finished with the service. Again, what I did, and it was a little difficult for me to show you guys because I was underneath the car and I was also trying to monitor the temperature. But what you do is you run the car on, and from there you let it heat up to about 95 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. At that point, your transmission should level off in terms of the fluid. You want to open up drain plug, and if you see that fluid has started to come out, you know at that point it is properly leveled out. So you'll go ahead and close it up. I did also want to add is while the car or the transmission fluid is heating up, you do need to cycle through the gears. So you'll put your foot on the brake, you'll put reverse, drive, and you'll go through your different gears. I did that a total of 3 times to make sure everything worked out really well, and I just put it into park. Once the fluid was up to temperature, again, everything was starting to come out, so I got underneath the vehicle, closed everything off, and at that point, you are done with leveling your fluid out. Now, the last thing at this point here is you're going to go ahead and torque everything down. You torque the fill bolt, you'll torque the drain bolt, and I'll have those right here for you. And that, my friends, is essentially the service of your filter as well as your fluid on the Mini Cooper Countryman R60. So we are finished with the filter as well as the fluid change on the automatic transmission on the Mini Cooper. So I wanted to provide you guys some final thoughts as well as feedback on the overall process. The most crucial things that you're going to need to do is, one, be able to access the fill plug, and I have showed you guys how to essentially crack the fill plug open successfully. The other thing, you're also going to have some method of getting the fluid into your transmission, and a pump and hose definitely works out very well. And then the final crucial item is going to be finding a way to properly measure your fluid's temperature. And it's going to be between 95 and 115. You could use like a heat gun or some type of app like I use, which is Carista, that shows me the temperature of the fluid. If you're able to do that, you should be successfully able to level out your fluid. Now, initially, the reason why I changed my fluid is with any new vehicle that I purchased, I had no idea how long the transmission fluid had been changed, and you guys saw from the video, it was dirty, it was black, and just grimy. So I'm glad I had the chance to do that. And the other thing is it was a little notchy in terms of its shifting, and I can tell you successfully after we were finished, I went ahead and drove the car, make sure that there was no leaks, and the transmission actually shifted really clean. Some people had indicated in their reviews of brand new Mini Coopers that the transmission, it was smooth. So I was wondering, hey, why isn't mine necessarily shifting smoothly? So now with the change, it worked out very well. So if you guys need to do that, I highly recommend that you do change your fluid, as it will help your transmission shift much more crisp and smooth. Even when you are actually downshifting, before it felt notchy, now it downshifts very nicely. So make that change and do it. As usual, my friends, thank you so much for checking another DIY video of mine. I wanted to thank you, all the guys that have done this before me, that provided the techniques as well as their inputs to help me make this a successful project. This is going to be Peter, your automotive fanatic, Signing off until the next time, my friends.